Greetings, everyone. Lisa here. If you go to sleep at night and you feel like you've done something, more than likely you have. We consider this that you work for the army of the Lord or you're working for the army of the bad guys. Either way, I'm speaking to you. These theorems are based on Dolores Cannon's work, reading the Bible, and my own personal experiences. And when I talk about dream time, when you go through awakenings, you have awakenings happen. They keep on happening and you keep on growing. And if you don't, then you have to wonder what the heck's going on. But when you get past the part where when you meditate that all those thoughts are rotating in and then you get to quietude, then you get to the place where you see up here in your third eye. Now, I don't know if everybody does that or if that's special abilities only, but I have a feeling everybody can get there if they want to. Now, sometimes we are able to remote view. Sometimes up there they feed us information that way. Sometimes we see into altered states and realities and we see entities doing weird things. And that's where some of us come in and we combat things. Today is Thors Day. Actually, I'm doing this on Wednesday, but I have a class tomorrow that's like super long. So if I do it tomorrow, it would be late in the day. So I thought it would be out there. I think this information is important. I've written off to the publishing company I should have tried to find an email. I sometimes forget and still write letters. And I think sometimes we should go back to some of the ways we used to do things. At any rate, that's neither here nor there. I'm going to read to you out of Angels Don't Play This Harp, and we're on chapter 9 called Tesla's Weather Apprentices. So I'm just going to take it from there. Give me 1 second. I'm going to turn a light on and I'm going to put this little board up so you don't focus on me. And, Trent Reznor can't, I already gave him some AI, so he can go elsewhere. And at the end, after I read to you, if you want to stay and listen to tell you where the story is and what's going on in 5D, at least with some of us, okay? Okay, so let's get to it. Chapter 9, Tesla's Weather Apprentices. Archimedes, 287 to 212 BC, started a long tradition of ambitious engineers who want to make their mark on the world. And this is in quotes, "Give me a long enough lever and a place to stand on, and I will move the earth," Archimedes said. Fortunately, he never found that big a tool. More than 20 centuries later, his spirit lives on in the military's engineers. They would like to at least be able to move the upper atmosphere jet stream, changing global weather to one country's advantage. Is electromagnetism that tool? Two scientists from the Stanford University Radio Science Laboratory, H.C. Chang and U.S. Iman, are among the experts who offer evidence of what our technology can do to affect the sky by making waves on Earth. They have published papers about electron precipitation from the magnetosphere, the outer belts of charged particles which stream towards Earth's magnetic poles. If you ever seen an example of that, it goes like that, or it goes in and out and around. So it goes into the core and comes out and around. I'm just saying. Where was I? They stream towards Earth's magnetic poles, caused by man-made very low frequency electromagnetic waves. And there's a notation here. H.C. Chang and U.S. Iman, quasi-relativistic electron precipitation due to interactions with coherent VLF waves in the Magnetosphere Journal of Geophysical Research, January 1, 1983. I'd like to add a note to that. Where let me find my spot though. I'd just like to say there are human beings now on planet Earth who are genetically enhanced and altered to where we can attract those relativistic particles and help out the atmosphere a little bit. And that's what we use when we destroy some things in 5D space. And it's good. It's good for the environment. Just saying. Okay. These precipitated particles can produce secondary ionization, emit X-rays, and cause significant perturbation in the lower ionosphere. I had trouble with that word, sorry. In 1974, Dr. Robert Helliwell and John Katsourakis of Stanford University's Radio Science Laboratory showed that very low frequency radio waves can vibrate the magnetosphere. And I just have to put a point in here. When we do sonic resonancing, just think about the way our bodies work. Our heart pumps blood, it flows, and we have a little bit of a magnetosphere in our own personal selves. Think about the aura, and that we are kind of magnetic, and we are low frequency radio waves as well, just so you know. In the Antarctic, with a 20 km antenna, I don't know what is kilometers, I'm not sure, and 5 kilohertz transmitter, they learned that the magnetosphere can be modulated to cause high energy particles to cascade into Earth's atmosphere. By turning the signal on or off, they could stop the flow of energetic particles. Weather control. Avalanches of energy dislodged by such radio waves could hit us hard. The theoretical implication suggested by their work is that global weather control can be attained by the injection of relatively small signals into the Van Allen belts, radiation belts around Earth, something like a super transistor effect, said Frederick Juneman, the columnist for Industrial Research magazine, speculated further if Tesla's resonance effects, as shown by the Stanford team, can control enormous energies by minuscule triggering signals, then by an extension of this particle, we should be able to affect the field environment of the very stars in the sky with godlike arrogance. We someday may yet direct the stars in their courses. And I'm going to say right there, don't do that. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you even think those thoughts? And there's a notation there. It says 87. Frederick Juneman, I hope I say your name right, sorry. Industrial Research magazine, February 1974, quoted by Margaret Cheney, Tesla's Man Out of Time, page 287. All right, why would you want to move the stars? The question is, will that knowledge be used by war-oriented or biosphere-oriented scientists? Good question. A 1977 editorial in Saturday Review warned about weather warfare and called it a moral issue, saying if the world is in for a long spell of crippling weather, then we are fools and monsters if we don't get together for the purpose of mounting a response as though our life depended on it, as indeed it does. Now there's another notation there. Weather Modification, unsigned editorial, Saturday Review, 2/5/77, page 4. A series of weather disasters began in 1960, according to a CIA report mentioned in the editorial, but at the time, climatologists couldn't look ahead and see that droughts, floods, and abnormal temperatures would continue beyond that decade, as if natural disasters weren't bad enough. The CIA reported that national governments were already able to manipulate weather for military purposes. The editorialist had an impertinent thought. It is difficult to read the CIA report without wondering whether some of the climatic aberrations in recent years may not have been part of military experimental programs. Now, 1961, Valiant Thor came down and talked to Dwight D. Eisenhower, but a lot of this research stuff was going on before that. And that's primarily why Val came down, because he was trying to explain weather is not the way you want to go with this. It's for communication. Use this system for communication and communication only. Am I right about that, Val? And that's why Val came down. Just in case anybody knows, but I know I wear a blue wig, so nobody's going to listen to me. Anyway, Saturday's Review's 1977 editorial used strong words to describe the desensitization of the public and decision makers, a deadening of moral indignation that came from seeing an endless procession of superweapons. That process was described as mass insanity. If the collective conscious does not now respond, then all our philosophy and religion and education have been abstract, irrelevant, and futile. The collective conscious was silent, however, and by 1995, the military has had another 18 years to work on weather warfare methods, which it euphemistically calls weather modification. For example, rainmaking technology was taken for a few test rides in Vietnam. The DoD sampled lightning and hurricane manipulation studies in Project Skyfire and Project Storm Fury, and they looked at some complicated technologies that would give big effects. Lowell Ponty, author of The Cooling, says the military studied both lasers and chemicals, which they figured could damage the ozone layer over an enemy. Looking at ways to cause earthquakes as well as to detect them was part of the project code named Prime Argus. Decades ago, the money for that came from the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, now under the acronym ARPA. In 1993, Air Force Chief of Staff General Merrill McPeak told a meeting of the U.S. Space Foundation that those opposing a larger military role in space must reconsider their viewpoint. He emphasized that the country must develop new systems so that it can control the space environment in the future. He and other Air Force officials wouldn't say what they had in mind, but said that new systems are more of a political question than a technological challenge. And there's a reference here. Neff Hudson and Andrew Lawler, USAF Chief Calls for Space Defense Upgrades. Space News, April 19 through 25, 1993. The next year, the Air Force revealed a bit more. Its Spacecast 2020 master plan includes weather control as a possible new weapons initiative. Defense News excerpted the report under weather control. The article said that scientists have experimented with weather control since the 1940s, but Spacecast 2020 noted that using environmental modification techniques to destroy, damage, or injure another state are prohibited. Having said that, the Air Force claimed that advances in technology compels a re-examination of this sensitive and potentially risky topic. And there's a notation here. Air Force Space Master Plan envisions weather control. Defense News, September 26 through October 2nd, 1994. What could the new technology do? For one, military forces may have the tool for zapping a hole through a cloud in order to target their enemy. That would be costly and risky, but the potential benefits for national security could be even higher. Air Force officials said the weather control section of their report is classified and won't be released. I just have to make a note there. This is the year 2026. And I'm not saying, at some point, a one world order, you hear about that, but wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to have weapons? If we all just got along? All of us. Just saying, it's a thought. Air Force officials said the weather control section of their report is classified and won't be released. 40 years of zapping the sky. As far back as 1958, the chief White House advisor on weather modification, Captain Howard T. Orville, said the U.S. DoD was studying ways to manipulate the charges of the earth and sky and so affect the weather by using an electronic beam to ionize or deionize the atmosphere over a given area. And there's a notation here. Between two ages, America's role in the technotronic era by Z. Biginu Brzezinski. I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering the name. Penguin Books, Mass, 1976. And I think that means Massachusetts. In 1966, Professor Gordon J.F. MacDonald, Associate Director of the Institute of Geophysics and Planetary Physics at the University of California, Los Angeles, was a member of the President's Science Advisory Committee and later a member of the President's Council on Environmental Quality. He published papers on the use of environmental control technologies for military purposes. MacDonald made a revealing comment, and this is in quotations. The key to geophysical warfare is the identification of environmental instabilities to which the addition of a small amount of energy would release vastly greater amounts of energy. And there's a notation here. Unless peace comes, a scientific forecast of new weapons, edited by Nigel Calder, Geophysical Warfare, How to Wreak the Environment by Gordon J.F. MacDonald, pages 181 through 205, 1968, provided by International Committee for the Convention Against Offensive Microwave Weapons. Okay, so MacDonald had a number of ideas for using the environment as a weapon system, and he contributed to what was, at the time, the dream of the futurist. When he wrote his chapter, How to Wreck the Environment, for the book, Unless Peace Comes, he was not kidding around. In the text, he describes the use of weather manipulation, climate modification, polar ice cap melting or destabilization, ozone depletion techniques, earthquake engineering, ocean wave control, and brainwave manipulation utilizing the planet's energy field. He also said that these types of weapons would be developed and when used would be virtually undetectable by their victims. He was not some wired-haired fanatic when he made these observations in 1966. He had the credentials of a world-recognized scientist. What his futuristic concepts became are the things which projects like HAARP are made of. Now I want to add something right there, people. We got a group of people working with this energy, making sexual weapons. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my experiences at the end of this reading. U.S. Congress Subcommittee Hearings on Oceans and International Environment looked into military weather and climate modifications. Now remember, they say it won't be detected by victims. Elon Musk, you fucking failed. You're a failure. You're a failure to fucking communicate. U.S. Congress Subcommittee Hearings on Oceans and International Environment looked into military weather and climate modification, conducted in the early 1970s. What emerged was an awesome picture of far-ranging research and experimentation by the DoD into ways environmental tampering could be used as a weapon, said Lowell Ponte, and there's a reference here. The Cooling by Lowell Ponte, Prentice Hall Incorporated, New Jersey, 1976. The revealed secrets surprised legislators. Would an inquiry into the state of the art of electromagnetic manipulation surprise lawmakers today? They might find out that technologies developed out of the HAARP experiments in Alaska could deliver on Gordon MacDonald's vision, because leading-edge scientists are describing global weather as not only air pressure and thermal systems, but also as an electrical system. Small input, big effect. A point to remember is that the ionosphere is an active electrical shield, protecting the planet from the constant bombardment of high-energy particles from space. This conducting plasma, along with Earth's magnetic field, traps the electrical plasma of space and holds it back from going directly to Earth's surface, says Charles Yost of Dynamic Systems, Leicester, North Carolina. HAARP zaps the ionosphere where it is relatively unstable. If the ionosphere is greatly disturbed, the atmosphere below is subsequently disturbed. And there's a reference here. Charles A. Yost, Electrical Forces Applied to Basic Weather Phenomena, Proceedings of the 1992 International Aerospace and Ground Conference on Lightning and Static Electricity, Atlantic City, 1992. Document available through National Technical Information Services, Springfield, Virginia, 22161. That's their zip code. Okay. It is reasonable to expect Earth's relatively thin atmosphere of insulating gas, water vapor, to be mechanically pushed and pulled by the surrounding electrical forces. Yost says electrical currents in the ionosphere are said to be 100 times larger than those produced lower down at any moment by all the world's thunderstorms. Yost concludes that electrical forces should be included along with thermodynamics, gravity waves, and effects of Earth's rotation as causes of weather variations. According to his experiments and analysis, ionospheric currents and changing magnetic fields in the ionosphere must produce global oscillating gradients that go down as far as the ground. A connection between man-made electromagnetic forces and the weather showed up in a paper Yost wrote about lightning and Earth harmonics. The apparent global interaction of electrical storms prompted Yost to take another look at how clouds form. He found that electrostatic forces can influence the dynamics of cumulus clouds. On a copy of his paper that Yost sent to Jean Manning, I've been calling you Jean Ann, and I apologize for that. I'm ditzy. He wrote, "Man can make these levels of force artificially." I have to have a little water. I'm sorry here. Give me a minute. Excuse me. Whoa, my board fell. Okay. In the early stages, a cumulonimbus cloud's transition layer is in a delicately balanced condition of pressure, temperature, and water vapor content. According to Yost, such that minor change triggers condensation, a radiation particle, a localized electric field transient, or a slight local thermal disturbance might trigger the change of the state, Yost said. The first two factors may help explain strange extremes of weather over industrialized, electrified, atomic-powered North America. For one thing, the unnatural 60 Hz electromagnetic fluctuations from a dense web of power lines have entrained the vibrations of the ionosphere in some places. Again, Tesla's favorite phenomenon, resonance, explains how a relatively small force can have large effects. Dr. Robert O. Becker explains how one man-made electrical effect, power line harmonic resonance, causes fallout of charged particles from the Van Allen radiation belts, and how the falling ions cause ice crystals, which precipitate rain clouds. And there's a notation. Robert O. Becker, The Body Electric, William Morrow, New York, 1985. What about HAARP? Energy blasted upward from an ionospheric heater is not much compared to the total in the ionosphere, but HAARP documents admit that thousand-fold greater amounts of energy can be released in the ionosphere than injected. As with McDonald's key to geophysical warfare, non-linear effects described in the literature about ionospheric heater mean small input, large output. At a 1983 science conference in Atlanta, one of the presentations held clues about where engineers and physicists were heading with the small input, large output goal. There's a reference here. E. Richards, Earth Power Spectrum, Proceedings, the Second International Symposium on Non-Conventional Energy Technology, page 136, CADAKE Publishing, P.O. Box 1490, Clayton, Georgia, 30525. E. Richards talked about the above-mentioned Stanford University experimenting in beaming VLF radio waves to the magnetosphere. The signals followed the curves of the magnetic field and swung back to Earth. They were detected halfway around the world, away from their origin in California. In some cases, the signals were amplified 1,000 times. I have a notation there. Some of us are human amplifiers. Some of us are human resonators, and some of us are human receivers. Just an FYI. What strengthens these radio signals 1,000-fold, according to Richard's research, the signals gather energy from electrons within the Van Allen radiation belts, which surround Earth's atmosphere. Each time one of the world's 50 or so VLF 3 to 30 kHz transmitters send out its signal, streams of excited particles from the outermost regions of the magnetosphere cascade into the atmosphere. Even low frequency 30 to 300 kHz radio waves leak into the upper layers, causing this same phenomenon. The injection of small signals into the energy belts creates something like a super transistor effect, altering the motion of free electrons thousands of miles out from Earth's surface. This Tesla magnifying resonance effect can control enormous energies by minuscule triggering signals, as did Nikola Tesla. Richards works with the principle of resonance. In a recent interview, and there's a notation here, E. Richards' conversation with Gene Manning, May 1995, Richards explained the supertransistor effect, which others also describe as an avalanche of electrons. At certain frequencies and at a certain energetic threshold, there is a large energy transfer between levels in the upper atmosphere. Effects reach the ground. How far down from the magnetosphere or ionosphere through the atmosphere can such an avalanche come? Surprisingly, in various locations, Richards found effects reaching the Earth. The first time he saw this recorded on scientific instruments, he was living at 8,000 feet above sea level in central west New Mexico, where the air was clear and electromagnetically quiet. That day, there was a large buildup of electrical energy in the atmosphere, very close to the surface of the Earth, but not a thunderstorm condition. As the non-lightning electrical condition passed through the area, Richards and his associates monitored surprisingly large oscillations, vibrations on their antenna array, and learned at what frequencies the local atmosphere readily vibrates. The vibrations charged capacitors, energy stored units, to a rather high voltage. One quiet March day, while monitoring the Russian and American ELF transmission, they tried running an antenna array, twisted wires, a mile along the ground and received unexpectedly strong and continuous signals. Briefly, the findings and further monitoring were a springboard for discovering correlations with harmonic interactions between the planets. They also learned how nature handles the influx of cosmic energy towards Earth's surface through the auroral vibrations. The researchers saw how energies could be stored within the magnetosphere, and we have a mechanism confirming Tesla for drawing this energy into the lower atmospheric cavity. Coupling between ionosphere and weather. While Richards' interest in their work was to find a usable clean energy source for the inhabitants of Earth, physicists at Stanford University worked on a government-funded project. They wanted to amplify waves in the magnetosphere for the goal of global communications at lower frequencies. And there's a notation here. VLF, Getting Particles Excited. Science News, December 18th and 25, 1982, page 392. The authors of this book have a different aim: to understand the ramifications of the high-level experiments. Could it affect our weather? The atmospheric physicists we have spoken to are vague in their answers. The paper by Richards gives strong clues. Recent scientific evidence suggests that strong electrical coupling exists between the ionosphere and lower atmosphere. He said large-scale horizontal electric fields move down from the magnetosphere and ionosphere with little loss of amplitude to around 10 like 10 kilometers above the Earth, he said. The total potential voltage drop across regions like the polar caps and the auroral ionosphere can be a significant fraction of the average ionospheric potential with respect to the Earth. What this means to us is that there is a powerful electrical connection between the ionosphere and the part of the atmosphere where our weather comes on stage. The lower atmosphere, furthermore, scientific theories describes how the electrical energetic levels of the atmosphere are connected to the cloud processes. There's a notation here. Ralph Markson and Michael Muir, Solar Wind Control of Earth's Electrical Field, Science, May 30th, 1980, Volume 208, number 4447. E. Richards reported the following conclusions from his search of the literature. The conducting ionosphere can affect the instability by short-circuiting the electrostatic part of the Earth electric field, thus requiring less energy to release charge from the upper layers. These auroral arcs result in an acceleration process called ring currents, processing along the magnetic field lines that connect the magnetotail with the ionosphere. This is the primary supply of energy for the auroras. He explains how electrostatic waves stimulate the ionosphere, allowing the powerful radiations described above to flow in from space. He adds that observations from satellites and from the ground tend to confirm Nikola Tesla's claims about his Colorado Springs experiments. With his oscillator, he was able to stimulate the ionosphere through high voltage and then allow the cascading of the upper layer currents, thereby stimulating the natural action of the aurora and also of lightning. Tesla was one of several inventors cited by E. Richards who were on the path to using the abundant energy source that surrounds us each minute. Did you hear what he said? It surrounds us each minute, dragons. Humanity lives within the cosmically stimulated bubble of the magnetosphere, and I happen to call it the biodome. Richards said, and upon the twirling spherical generator that is the Earth, in the spirit of previous generations of scientists called natural philosophers, he is awed by the beauty of the system. In our experience, this appreciation of the processes of the universe often comes to independent researchers who aim to work in harmony with nature. In other words, resonance seems a gentler way to transfer power than direct zapping. The weather can be changed using electrostatics. A discovery allowing the manipulation of weather was made by Elate Intelligent Technologies Incorporated, a small Russian company. They found a way to fine-tune weather patterns over a 200-mile range. The system consists of dozens of aerial, each 25 feet tall, with that discharge electrical energy upward to react with ions in the air. There's a notation here. Adi Inganatis, which is ADI, IGNATIUS, rain, rain, go away, go soak someone less willing to pay. Moscow firm offers weather made to order, our man-made requests, 3 days. The Wall Street Journal, October 2nd, 1992, page A1 and A11. These aerials are connected to a computer system and power supply, which is controlled by an operator to create the desired effects. Lev Pokhimlenka, and I'll spell that for you, Pokhmelnykh, is the company founder and a respected physicist specializing in electrostatics. I'm not going to say his last name. Demonstrated the system for the Wall Street Journal, reported with startling results. He used the system to clear clouds in an otherwise dreary day. The technology points out how little we know about such effects and the way weather can be manipulated by people. And I apologize, Mr. Lev, there if I said your name wrong. Rivers in the air. There was another unexpected discovery of an atmospheric phenomenon in 1993. It was found that the Earth's lower atmosphere contains rivers of water vapor, rivaling the Amazon in the massiveness of their flow. And there's a notation here. Kathy Sawyer, Climatology, Space Data Indicate Rivers in the Sky. The Washington Post Science Notebook, January 25, 1993. Reginald E. Newell of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology reported that these vapor rivers were the main mechanism for moving water from the equatorial regions of the Earth to the poles. However, he did not expect to find that the water vapor was contained in narrow bands, which are 420 to 480 miles wide and up to 4,800 miles long. These bands are about 1.9 miles above the Earth and have flow volumes of 165 million kilograms of water per second. The observers found that there are 5 atmospheric rivers in the northern hemisphere and 5 in the southern hemisphere, each with these typical flow rates. We speculate that if HAARP were located in the right place, it could be used to deflect these flows in a way that alter weather's patterns. This is another concern which should be considered in the operation of HAARP, a fact not known before HAARP was planned. Beaming about Tesla's electric gun. Weapons-oriented researchers, on the other hand, are quite interested in other, more invasive aspects of Tesla's knowledge, besides resonance, such as the explosive channelization of air, which he is said to have learned about this phenomena as he injected successive pulses of energy along the same channel. According to Dr. J.F.X. Daum, D-A-U-M, Ken Corkum, and Dr. James Corum, Ken Corum and James Corum, Tesla experimented with atmospheric tunneling. By the 1930s, Tesla had invented a channelized beam composed of a coherent burst of electrically charged material particles, moving as fast as the speed of light. The 3 scientists calculated that such a particle beam would easily pierce armored vehicles. There's a notation here. Thoughts on Tesla's particle beam technology. Presentation by Dr. J.F. Daum and Ken Corum and Dr. James Corum to International Tesla Society. Could they short-circuit Earth? Earth, as a spherical electrical surface system, is a fairly well-accepted model. However, those experimenters who want to make unnatural power connections between parts of this system might not be thinking of possible consequences. Electrical motors and generators can be can be caused to wobble when their circuits are affected. Could human activities cause a significant change in the planet's electrical circuit or electrical field? That's a question. A quote plucked from a lengthy paper in the respected journal Science deals with man-made ionization from radioactive materials, but perhaps it could also be studied with HAARP-type skybusters in mind. For example, while changes in the Earth's electrical field resulting from a solar flare modulating conductivity may have only a barely detectable effect on meteorology, the situation may be different in regard to electrical field changes caused by man-made ionization. And there's a notation here. Ralph Markson and Michael Muir, Solar Wind Control of the Earth's Electrical Field. Science, May 30th, 1980, Volume 208, number 4447, page 989. Meteorology, of course, is the study of the atmosphere and weather. Ionization is what happens when a higher level of power is zapped into atoms and knocks electrons off the atoms. The resulting charged particles are the stuff of HAARP. One look at the weather should tell us that we are on the wrong path, says Paul Schaefer, electrical engineer commenting on HAARP-type technologies. An administrator of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration once said, "It is not possible to draw clear distinctions between research and technological development on weather modification for hostile and non-hostile purposes." Our planetary environment is becoming progressively more energetic with unusual activity like mysterious bursts of energy that mimic radio waves from atomic explosions being detected in the atmosphere. Paul Schaefer, Engineer and Research, Kansas City, Missouri. The Earth is becoming a disturbed planet, and man is doing the disturbing. Acres, USA. And that's where I am. The next one is Chapter 10, putting the heat on Mom Earth. And there we go. Now, I have a little bit to say about our story, which is affected by some of this because they've gone into the step of research and develop for mind control reasons and for manipulating people. And Trent Reznor's zoo is part of that, as some of us are test subjects, and we get hit with electro whatever. I don't know if it's magnetics or what. But some of us have been modified to deal with it, or can, how would I put it, Spirit? Reverse the effects, they said. We're trying to reverse the effects. I heard, the last reading I did, I heard Miss Jean Manning say, "This makes me want to cry." And I don't know exactly if it's because you know where it's gone or the fact that nobody listened to you guys, because seriously, nobody has listened to you. But as a person who has been affected by these weapons, I'm going to explain a little bit of what their research does. And now I'm coming at you as a psychic medium, okay? Because I've never met you, never spoke to you, but I hear things. I am a receiver. I am a resonancing receiver. Trent Reznor is technically a resonating. He can put out. He's an outputter, okay? And it's unfortunate he's gone to the dark side. And I'm not afraid to say your name, sir. I dare you to fucking sue me for defamation. Not after what you've been paid for having me on your zoo. At any rate, which I want the money, buddy. Uh, what we deal with, and when I talk about the cool hand Luke ray, they shoot at our private parts. The women of this evil conglomerate have pinching devices that actually feels like my vagina is being pinched. Now, trigger warning, people, I'm going to be very graphic because people have to know what's being done to people. Now, the cool hand Luke ray is like, it feels like somebody put an ice pack on my vagina, right at the opening of my vagina. Now, when I ask spiritual entities to lock down my vagina, it's because somehow they have devised electronic energetic weapons that makes a man feel like he's inserting his penis into a vagina and he's not there. They use these technologies to make people invisible. They use these technologies to come into your environment, to actually come into your environment. That's how they get your passwords. They watch you do stuff. And the girls, some of the girls, I don't know if it's an actual electronic weapon, but we can block them. So to my participants, when you hear the words "see," if you've done your residency and you can hear these SOBs and you hear "see," they're trying to open up into your space so they have some form of electronics. They map our brains so they can see what we're thinking. Now, if that comes out in words or visuals, and then sometimes if you're speaking and you can hear your words, if you can hear your words being repeated, they have a transcriber. I say kill the transcriber. When I hear the word see, I say block see, blind see, burn see, kill see. And actually it does, we do static energy, the relativistic particles go out and cause static on their end. Let me validate that, because is that what happens? So we actually confuse them, okay? Because we're using our interpersonal energy to burst out there and blind the son of a bitches. So we are, in effect, some of us have been modified by Up in Space to subvert and redivert the perverts. Anyway, that's what some of us go through. And they also have energy weapons to cause bruising and swelling in your joints. They do this to me because I actually use a machete and I take my energy and I focus on the face of the person and I machete the F out of them, because how dare you touch my vagina? How dare you have me on CCTV? And that's all I'm going to say. So anyway, Miss Manning, I appreciate your work. I appreciate you, because that book that's no longer in print, and I hope I get permission to read this and not sued by you guys, is very informative to those of us who are fighting this. And we're here because God put us here, and we're working from the fucking inside out. Don't ever forget that, dragons. We're the good guys. And you can use all the aggression you want in 5D space, because we're the cops out there. Anyway, remember, I love, some of you are amazing, and I love almost all of you. Bye now.